Hello, this is a short demonstration video to show you the steps needed to upgrade a Wyse ThinOS device to the new Wyse ThinOS 9.x firmware. So the first thing that we're going to need is a Wyse Management Suite 2.0 server. This can be either the standard or professional version running on-prem or in the cloud. We're going to need a Wyse client running ThinOS that's able to run the 9.x firmware. So this is going to be a Wyse 3040, a Wyse 5070, a Wyse 5470 all-in-one, or a Wyse 5470 mobile thin client. You should only do this upgrade to the 9.x if you're using Citrix as your VDI infrastructure. Support for other VDI infrastructures is coming soon. And one thing to note, this is typically a one-way upgrade using Wyse Management Suite. There is a way to put it back to the 8.6 firmware, but that requires you booting from a USB thumb drive and using the Wyse USB firmware tool. So let's go ahead and get started. So right here, I've got a system. This is my system that I'm going to test from. You can see this is actually running the 8.6013 firmware. And the platform is the Wyse 3040. So let's go ahead and upgrade this. So let's look at my Wyse Management Suite 2.0 server. So the first thing I'm going to point out, I installed this as a new server. So the enrollment validation is on. So this is a new feature in Wyse Management Suite 2.0. So if you don't see your device showing up right away, and you might see an enrollment pending, you can just look at the device view, and I'm going to switch it to enrollment validation pending, and I can see my device here. Here's my 3040 with 8.6. So I'm going to go ahead and validate the enrollment. So now I've got a device, and I can see it's in my unmanaged group. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move that device, and I'm going to put it in my default policy group. Okay, so now I can see the device is in compliance. It's in my default policy group, and I've got it there. So let's go ahead and begin the upgrade process to the 9.0 firmware. So what I need to do is I need to go under Apps and Data, and now in my OS image repository, I have ThinOS and ThinOS 9. So the firmware I'm going to upload, I'm going to be applying to a ThinOS 8 device, even though it is a upgrade firmware. So I'll go under Wyse ThinOS, and I'm going to just add a firmware file, and I'll browse to the location where I've got that downloaded to. So I'm looking for the firmware for the 3040. So I want the OS Web 3040, and that file will be a A10QWNOS. So this is the raw image file. For a 5070 or 5470, that's going to be an X10. So I'll just call this 3040 WTOS, and I'll go ahead and upload that file. So this is something new in the WMS 2.0. We have actually got a progress bar as we're uploading the file. Okay, once that's done, I can see my A10Q WNOS 9.0 firmware is available in the software repository. While I'm here, I've got two package files that I want to go ahead and apply to that. So I'm going to add them here. The first is the Citrix package. Okay, and the next one is the JVDI package. Okay, so now under my OS image repository within ThinOS 9, I can see my two package files, my 9.0 package files. In my ThinOS 8 section, I can see the 9.0 firmware for the 3040. Now I just need to go ahead and assign those firmware files to a group. So I created a group called Corp Root 9, who right now does not have any image policy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit a policy for ThinOS. And then in firmware upgrade, I'm going to go ahead and configure this item. And so for the 3040, I will select the 9.0 firmware. I'm going to save and publish this policy. The rest of the defaults are fine. And then I'm also going to edit a ThinOS 9.x policy. And within here, there is a firmware section and application package settings. I'm going to go ahead and select the two that I just put in there, the Citrix and the JVDI, and save and publish that. So now if I look at my Corp Root 9 group, I can see I've got a ThinOS to upgrade the firmware and a ThinOS 9 to apply these two packages. Now I simply just need to take my device that's in my default policy group and I'm going to move him to that new group. So I'm going to change his group into the Corp Root 9 and go ahead and save that. Now I'm going to move over here. Now this is the device whose group was just changed. Again, he's running the 8.6 firmware. Okay, and you can see that now the 9.0 firmware is being pushed to this device. So it will take a few reboots to apply this. Note that the ThinOS 8 to ThinOS 9 is a major version in upgrade. Okay, now on this first reboot, you can see here, it's actually preparing the ThinOS 9 installation. And I can see the packages as they're being extracted. Okay, now we can see the system is booting up in the new ThinOS 9.0 interface. I can check here in the system information and go ahead and I can see we're at running 9.0. And now it's telling me a new firmware is available. So remember, I had it in the group where it was upgrading to 9.0, but I also had some packages. So let's just check here. If we look here, the packages are not installed. So that's what it's going to need to do now. So let's go ahead and say continue. And here you can see the Citrix package being downloaded. So now that both the Citrix and the JVDI package have been downloaded, they can install. Okay, the system now has rebooted. And of course, it's still on 9.0. But as well, we can see if we check under packages. We can see the latest JVDI and Citrix packages. Let's go ahead and open up my Wyse Management Suite console. If I refresh that, I should see now that I have a Wyse 3040 running 9.0, still in the corporate 9 folder where it was applied before here. And I can see that device information here. So thank you for taking time to watch the video. Hopefully this makes it clear the steps that you need to follow if you would like to upgrade your Wyse ThinOS client from ThinOS 8 to ThinOS 9. Thanks for watching.